super excited for the conversation today. We're going to hear from Justin and Keith. Quick intros, we're going to go around the horn for those. Spend most of our time having a discussion with Keith, who's the founder of XENOM, and with Justin, who's the HWPO Director of Coaching. So super excited to hear these expert perspectives on coaching, the fitness industry in general, and then obviously Keith's story and perspective on XENOM. Before we jump into the conversation, I'll give Keith and Justin a chance to introduce themselves. Let me just preface this by saying I'm really looking forward to this conversation. Justin, Keith, thank you guys for joining us and sharing your expertise. I think in the world, especially the tech world right now, there's so many conversations about AI and technology, and you guys are building the fitness ecosystem in a way that's bringing people together for really fun and engaging in-person competition. So I'm excited, I'm passionate about that topic. We're going to dig into what XENOM is, why gym owners should pay attention, and how it fits into that bigger picture of competitive fitness. Before we do that, let's get to know you guys. So Keith, do you mind giving a quick intro?
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, firstly, thank you so much for having us both on. I really appreciate it. Really appreciate the opportunity to talk to all your users and gym owners. The quick introduction then. So I'm Keith. I'm the founder of XENOM. I have been involved in the fitness and in the CrossFit world for most of my life in varying degrees. I have kind of two phases to my life. I have a pre CrossFit where I was not as happy, pretty overweight. And then I have like this moment where I found this hugely transformational experience in suddenly finding fitness and finding kind of the true fitness in terms of broad work capacity across time and middle domains and that sinking in with a step change in my life. I met my wife in a CrossFit gym. We launched our first business, which was a PR agency, which still is a PR agency in that space. And across that time, I got my L2, was coaching at District Battersea, which is a gym in the UK, in the morning, and then going to my job where I worked for a private family office, an investment firm, in the day, burning the candle at both ends. And then we launched Fit as PR, which was a PR agency, worked with lots of brands in the space. One of the biggest and kind of the most notable being High Rocks, where I led all of the narrative and creative comms for them from the moment we kind of came out of COVID. Did that for the last 5 years, became very, very close with Mo and Christian, the two founders from High Rocks, saw this incredible product that they had built and this perspective they had built coming from a completely different space. Like one was a hockey player, one had run Ironmans and marathons and these huge experiential races, and kind of learned a lot from them in what events can be and what they mean to people, and in this context, like what they can mean for gym owners, what they can mean for communities. And then spent the last few years kind of looking at the wider space and thinking there is an opportunity here to create one of these products that really caters to this CrossFit high performance community that's pursuing this very specific format of fitness that is broad and adaptive and pretty unique in the world, and that wasn't being catered to from an event perspective. And when I say event, I mean event in the context of how everyone has now seen events can be and what they can mean to people through the evolution of sports like High Rocks. And so we went and raised a little bit of money, and launched this competition earlier in the year, and are now head down, about 40 days out from our first event in Dallas, which would really.
Yeah, we're excited for it, and congratulations. I feel like this is the kind of thing where we're just at the beginning. We're going to watch the recording of this webinar 5 years from now and be like, remember when we talked about it, 40 days out from that first event? So excited to dig into everything in more depth, and thanks again for joining us. And then the other person we have is Justin. Justin, you want to give a quick introduction?
Sure. I'm Justin Kotler, currently Director of Coaching for HWPO Training. Feel like I've been in this community for a very long time, almost 20 years. Started out in the Northeast. I owned CrossFit Dynamics, which was in Astoria, New York, which was we called it the Blue Temple. It was some great memories, and it was a phenomenal gym, phenomenal competitor gym, and got really into coaching elite athletes very early in my career as a coach. Have been lucky to coach some of the best athletes in the world over the years, and been lucky enough to get a few athletes onto the podium at the CrossFit Games. I was a coach in the grid league way back in the day, and always been a major athlete advocate, and ran Underdogs Athletics for a while, which was amazing, and settled here in Las Vegas, and am now lucky enough to be working with HWPO, which has really, been incredible. My short time with them. Uh, and excited to be a part of this. I know, we're very excited about this partnership with XENOM, and I'm just excited to be here today to answer some questions, assist Keith however I can. Obviously, he's the star of the show here. I'm just here to kind of help out however I can, and yeah, we're just excited to be part of this partnership, especially in the incipient stages.
Yeah, and as HWPO is right now the first and only training partner of XENOM. So excited to get your perspective on that and just your decades of experience seeing the competitive fitness landscape evolve. I think you're gonna bring great perspective to that and help grow XENOM in the CrossFit and general fitness community. And then quick intro for myself. I'm helping just moderate this. I'm the CEO of Wodify. We are a tech company that partners with CrossFit gyms, functional fitness gyms, and other types of fitness and wellness businesses around the world. And the reason that I'm passionate about bringing conversations like this to gym owners is that I think there's a huge opportunity if gym owners understand what organizers like Keith, you're doing with XENOM, what you're doing, and how they can help be a training ground for athletes to go and test their fitness or compete in these fitness competitions. It's a huge business opportunity, and it's great to be able to jump on that train kind of earlier. The earlier, the better. So that's my background, and let's jump into it. I'll go back and forth between sharing my screen when we have visual cues. But just to start, Keith, I want to address what some people who might not know too much about XENOM could be thinking, which is that there's been so much noise about High Rocks and other fitness competitions popping up. XENOM might look on the surface like a High Rocks competitor or like a High Rocks copycat, but there's something very fundamentally different with the approach you're taking. So why don't you start there and tell us how it's different than High Rocks and how the event and competition structured?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's it's fairly typical, and obviously we went through a process to launch this business for people to look at what's happening in the space at the moment and say, oh, High Rocks looks super cool, and there are some lessons to learn from that, and that is make things as accessible as possible and make it really so that you can attract in any person off the street. And when we were conceiving this sport, my perspective was, okay, if you go and create a similar product to that, you are A, always going to be in that gravity well of that business. And B, you're not going to serve the customers in the community that we exist in. The customers in the community we exist in that are pursuant of broad work capacity across times and modal domains, all of the 10 physical traits that are want to be doing metabolic conditioning, yeah, but also want to be doing weightlifting, also want to be doing gymnastics, that you're not going to cater specifically to that community. And so when we were looking at the space, we were looking at, okay, High Rocks is incredible. And I still speak to Mo and Christian constantly about the product they've built and about their advice on the product that I'm building. But High Rocks is a very specific, very narrow expression of fitness, which is VO2 max, power output dominated, and that is it's an incredible test. It's unbelievable. And I'm sure people that are listening to this call have members who it's given purpose to their training. And that ultimately is, I think, what events do for people is it gives people purpose to the training, purpose to the methodology. But if the experience, if the competition is this very narrow expression of fitness, and you will have people in your gym whose capacity in fitness is this wide, and they're only being tested in this very narrow bit, then you're underserving the people in this community. And I think people forget that this community is millions of people strong. We, in our research, came up with a number of 4 million people who were still pursuing broad work capacity across time and middle domains, that were super engaged in this sort of fitness. And it's the Christian gives a good story from High Rocks, which is he thought of that sport as going and taking, you have millions of people going to the gym every year. And those millions of people at the moment, they are going to the driving range and they're just hitting balls and hitting balls and hitting balls. And they've never played golf. They've never played on the 18-hole golf course. They've never been able to really go and do it. And that's for your mass participation general fitness person. The same story here is, okay, where is the competition? Where is the experience? Where is the thing that people can really commit themselves into, give themselves purpose, and go and do? And so by nature, because of the people in our community, because of this unique, broad, adaptive fitness we've created, which I think is unique in human history, that there are this many fit people who can do this incredible range of things, then by nature, the test for them, the competition for them, the experience for them has to be very, very different. So
Yeah.
competition is very different. It's not a fitness race. It is a decathlon. So it is, you turn up in the morning, you have 2 days of competition, you do 5 events each day. And so exactly like you would understand, we talk about giving the CrossFit Games level experience to an everyday competitor. So you come, you do your registration the day before on the Friday, you have an athlete briefing exactly like you're an elite athlete at the CrossFit Games, and then you're working, you come in at 8 a.m. in the morning, you're in heat one, you do the first event, you do the 1 rep max snatch, you have an hour's break, you come back, you do event two, short break between event two and event three because they're paired. But again, then you have an hour's break in between. You're given the opportunity to treat yourself like a professional athlete, to fuel properly, to recover properly, to game yourself, to really crush the event. And then the same on day two as well. So they're fundamentally different propositions. Yeah.
And I really like one of the ways you describe that as celebrating the athlete or giving them a chance to really show off what they're training for. So can you go a little bit deeper on that? Like when we're talking about these 4 million people who have this ability and celebrating the athlete, and a gym owner's listening, is this for their 1% super competitive athletes? Is it for like who in their gym would be a good fit for XENOM?
Yeah, so I think anyone who is training consistently in a CrossFit gym is a good fit for XENOM. And like I said, I think our community, our space, it is unique in human history that there are this many people who have this unique form of fitness, which is genuinely incredible. And I was like, you see like the memes and stuff where people say you don't understand how much effort it takes to be mid at CrossFit, like to be bang average. You're training incredibly hard. You're training so hard, and you're probably dialing in your nutrition. You're probably training 3, 4 times a week. You're doing some extra core. You're sleeping well. You're thinking about your products, like, and that generally will get you to be like very okay at CrossFit. And that's completely fine. But the endeavor that people put in at that level, it's still endeavor, it's still rigor, it's still virtuosity that deserves to then be reflected in an event that matches how much you care about your training. So for us, like, so we have 3 different ways of competing. You can take part in the compete category, which is a scaled version. But when I say scaled, those are still aspirational movements for some people. It's still got a handstand push-up mat that someone might be like, okay, this is my goal, is I'm going to train for 3 months to get my handstand push-up to an ab mat to be able to get those points in that movement. Then you have RX. RX is you're doing the open RX. And then we have an elite category. And it's really interesting. So the elite category we assumed would be not not that many people would sign up to it. We had to change our heat category allocations around because we had over 90 men apply for the elite category in Dallas, and people want to test themselves at the highest end. And I think that's reflective of the sport that we are, like who people in
Yeah.
are. And then you can take part in each of those categories as a same-sex pair as well. So if you come in and you have someone who's been, if you have someone who's 6 months in, they're still in that golden period of CrossFit where every week you're just getting loads better, you're learning new skills, and you want that person to really bed into the community, bed into the sports, bed into the experience, and they want to come and do pairs compete with their buddy from the gym and go and have a great time. Like that's a really, really accessible form of the sport. On the other hand, you come in and you do individual elite, you can go and look at the weights and you can like go and look at the movements. It'll test the best in the world. And we will have the best and some of the best in the world coming and taking part.
Yeah, super exciting. So you talked through a lot there. Let me try to highlight a few things, then I want to get your take on something, Justin. But this idea that you've created a test that will let athletes in this space fully express their physical capabilities is amazing. I think, I don't know if this is a perfect analogy, but I think it would be, some of these people might go to High Rocks and it would feel like an elite marathoner doing like a 5K and then being like, wait, but there's more. Like maybe I did good, but I want to show what I'm really capable of. So I think that's an awesome piece. And then just before we forget, like so everyone knows, you've got 2 events planned. So that this first inaugural event is going to be in Dallas
Yeah.
or in Frisco, right? Um,
Yeah.
and putting it somewhere where, the CrossFit community has competition embedded in the community through the Open and the games, but a lot of times the Open takes place in the affiliate, which is great for that local community, but most people don't get that experience. So like looking at some of these mock-ups and knowing the venue you're going to, and one of the ways High Rocks has had success is you're giving everyone that feel of being a professional athlete is really awesome. And then just the last piece, I actually looked this up after talking with you because I didn't know what the Decathlon of Fitness meant. So the Decathlon is like these 10 events that you've borrowed the format from, 10 events over 2 days, and you've created a very sophisticated scoring methodology around this. And so people will likely want to debate your workouts, but what they can't debate is you've created a formula, you've created a system that we can actually objectively measure across different events and different athletes. So that seems like it's going to be a really exciting piece of this conversation. And Justin, my question for you, as one of these first partners with XENOM, like what was the thing that made you and HWPO say yes to partnering with XENOM and be interested in this, given you guys sit at the top of the top in terms of fitness competitions?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was a no-brainer, in the sense that we like supporting athletes of all levels. We love giving athletes something to train for, opportunities to compete. And I think, Xenom's values align with ours in terms of hard work and supporting athletes. So, really and truly, I think it was just something that was a natural partnership for us. The opportunity to give athletes something to train for, world-class setting to compete, a chance to test yourself, and have fun. And, so it's awesome that we're able to get in on it at the beginning.
Yeah. Yeah. And obviously, a test you guys believe in, like you believe, that this is a great way to test fitness. And Keith, for the gym owners listening to this, why else do you think they should be paying attention to XENOM specifically? Yeah, anything else you can share on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it always boils down to, are we giving purpose to the training? And I think anyone who runs a gym, anyone who has coached athletes has seen what happens when someone has that purpose, that goal to strive for, whether it's a high rocks or whether it's a marathon or whether it's the open. When you give people a direction to move in, like that's when you see bang, like that person's they're hitting their 4 times a week in the gym. they're really dialed in on their nutrition. They're super engaged. And that's then like you starting to solve and create solutions for churn, and you're starting to improve retention for gyms. And you can see it, especially then as you start to form like, and CrossFit is the ultimate example of what community can mean for a business. Like you build communities of people that have shared passion and shared interest in this thing, then those people, they stick together. Like those are your lifetime members, those are your 10-year members. And everyone has seen it, like when you've got Jimmy who's going to be in the semi-finals or something, and everyone's going to get to go and watch him, or at regionals or something, and you've got 25 people from the gym going and spending the whole weekend at the event celebrating this fitness, that this person who is in the gym doing it with them. That's an amazing thing. And we had this experience in the early phase of High Rocks, where we were obviously pitching High Rocks, and it was a concept that nobody understood. And the number of people that were like, 8 kilometers of running, like that's never, no one is ever going to be interested in doing that. You're never going to get anyone doing it. And obviously it happened. But when we were then, and we sell for High Rocks, I say we, High Rocks is a separate business, but High Rocks sells an affiliation program, and people can see with that affiliation program, like if you have 30 members who go to do a High Rocks together, like you've got a really strong business. Like just by default, you know that those people are all super engaged. They're super entwined with each other. And so I think it all boils down to giving people purpose to their training and to the methodology. Yeah.
Yeah, and you got that, like you were kind of saying, this built-in retention tool of an event, far out in the distance. So you kind of have that thing to train for, and you've got a community that could all participate in it together. So not necessarily everyone having their own goals, and not everyone has to do the XENOM because you have spectator tickets too. Like people can go and spectate, but it is accessible, like you said, to anyone who's regularly training.
Yeah.
What do you mentioned High Rocks is obviously, much further in terms of the events they've held, and they have a whole affiliation program, but gym owners are capitalizing on that through their affiliation program. You don't have a formal affiliation program yet. So is your recommendation to gym owners to share the event calendar, maybe pick the next event coming up, or what would your recommendation be to gym owners to, if they're excited about this, to roll it out at their business?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for us at the moment, the competition is everything. So we signed a CrossFit partnership. So we signed a CrossFit license partner agreement. So everyone who's listening, if you don't know, you get a 20% discount for all CrossFit affiliates. CrossFit will have sent that out to you. And for us at the moment, the real focus is driving driving members to come and take part and come and experience the event. We don't have plans for an affiliation program. I think in business you have to think like, what can I do better than anyone else? And there are loads of people who do really, really good coaching and education and affiliation and training, and there's lots of pressure on business owners at the moment because there is such like a big wide range of things. And when we were building the business, we thought three things. Like, is it good for the individual? The individual being the person in a CrossFit affiliate who loves the sport, loves the space, has probably watched marathons become this huge status imbuing symbol. Like you get to do London or Boston or something, and it's this big deal. They've watched High Rocks grow. They've watched all of these sports grow up around them, and maybe felt a little bit left out, like there wasn't something created specifically for them. We wanted to create something specifically for that person, and it had to be good for the individual. The second one was it had to be good for the affiliates, and it had to, for me, solve two things, which was the really consistent feedback I heard, which was one, people saying the best thing that's happened to my gym in the last few years has been High Rocks. We signed a High Rocks affiliation. We got 50 new members. It's great. The second thing was it's really hard to convince these people to improve their 1 rep max snatch and their muscle ups because
Yep.
only thing they are interested in is how do I get better at High Rocks? And they've kind of not gone through the process of doing an L1 or through the natural kind of inbound system that we have. And so maybe haven't heard of like the black box of fitness, maybe haven't heard of, downhill skiers doing pull-ups and thrusters and getting better at skiing. Like they haven't heard like the reason why the methodology in the rounded true format will drive results in that sport. So we had to create something that if someone said, "What's the best way of training for this?" you'd say, "Well, go and do constantly varied functional movements performed at relatively high intensity and do them all. Like, don't shy away from learning the new skill. Don't shy away from doing the complex gymnastics because that's where the magic is going to lie." And the third thing was that it had to be good for the ecosystem. And when I talk about the ecosystem, it was like we came in a way that was very specifically designed that we're not going to overtax all the elite athletes by saying you have to come and get ready for our finals event on this date because they've already got loads to do. That affiliate owners weren't like, okay, this is something else that I'm going to have to get for my gym. And that brands could get excited about. And this is something that we're super excited about, is just seeing like how excited brands are about then having something that brings the whole community together and gives them an opportunity to go and put their fitness on show, do it with their friends, look great on social media. Like you have to be cognizant of the world that we live in and like it has to be sexy. Like it has to be a cool event. It has to be in a cool spot. It has to look amazing on social media. It has to create people this like personal fame, this personal status that then motivates them because it's a core part of their personality.
Yeah, I think so I really like those three stakeholders and how you're addressing each of them differently. That second element of the gym owner piece really resonates with me of how they translate the programming or the event for something like High Rocks to their programming, I think is much harder than something like XENOM. There's this clear direct translation from these 10 events to CrossFit training and most training in gyms that have barbells and do some form of gymnastics. So I think that alone is like probably really resonating with a lot of the gym owners on this call. Justin, from your perspective, how does XENOM being an event where you actually know what the workouts are going to be, like how does that change your perspective as a coach and your programming in the gym leading up to an event?
Yeah, so I think the word that kind of comes to my mind is specificity. You're preparing for the exact problems the competition is asking the athletes to solve. So we think about CrossFit, as constant variation. This I look at a little bit more like controlled variation, which I actually like as a programmer. You can dial in on specific movements and progressions. I think, if you look at it from a gym perspective, it can help the gym become more intentional, and balanced with their programming, especially if they're,
Yeah.
wanting to prepare a bit for XENOM, right? You still want to create broad fitness programming. But knowing the events, the movements, what you're working towards, I think can create really focused progressions and workouts for a gym. I think that's exciting, as a gym owner and a programmer. And I also think for the athletes, that's exciting.
Yeah, and I think like you said, there's so much variety in here that your programming has the ability to still go really broad in terms of
Yep.
what you're working on, without losing that idea of like, well, how will this translate to the programming? Because you got such a broad test of fitness here. Really
100%.
exciting. Um, so Keith, I mentioned this first event coming up in Texas. You've got the London event announced. Can you talk to us just about the next like year or two? How many competitions are you hoping to run? I'm sure some, we got folks in different areas of the world on the call. Just tell us a little bit about your vision for the growth and expansion of XENOM.
Yeah, so we came into this relatively well capitalized and with a plan to grow aggressively. So we have our first event in Dallas, and we'll steadily scale these events up. So Dallas has a maximum cap of like 560 in that venue, and we are sold out in a few categories already. We'll sell out in like so male compete RX is gone. We are, yeah, we'll probably cap out for Dallas, and then we'll come to London in August. London is at London Olympia, which, if anyone's been there before, is just a stunning glass vaulted venue in the center of London, which we're super excited to go to. And then the next two events, one will be Miami in the latter half of this year. And
You heard it here first, people.
I honestly no specifics on it. And then yeah, we probably early next year will be in either France or Spain, are the next markets.
That's awesome.
So three in 26, and then the goal would be 7 to 10, depending on venues and where we end up in 27. We think there's space to grow this to an event pretty easily. Not easily, it'll be incredibly complicated, but to grow it to an event series of like 40 to 50 globally over the course of the next 5 years. Yeah.
Really exciting. And, I think when I think about the format, the fact that you're investing in 2 days with 10 events, actually, I think helps with the first few years where people will get on a plane to go to this. Like it's not a 30-minute event where they're like, well, I don't live in that area. So like it is a destination that people will be willing to go to. You're picking awesome venues. So I think the fact that you even just have one or two in different geographies means any gym owner, even remotely close to that, should be thinking about it.
I mean, the sport that's most analogous to this is Ironman. Like Ironman is exactly this model of it's not easy. You have to train very specifically for it, but the experience is huge. It is a badge of honor. It is a seminal moment for someone. It's probably the thing that they train for all year, but they get to come away from it and they get to say, hey, I did that thing. It was super hard, but by virtue of doing it, I possess this level of fitness and I possess this type of personality and characteristic that and that Ironman model is, for anyone that knows it, Ironman had probably 100,000 participants a year, but trying to get hold of an Ironman ticket, especially for their big races,
Yeah.
crazy hard. And if you think about like who the people in our space are, like those are our people. Like we've yeah.
They're passionate about it. They would love to spend a weekend testing their fitness.
Yeah.
That's what they live for. And then you mentioned some of the demand has been really strong on the competitive side. Justin, can you talk? You work with some of the top competitors in the world. Have you tested any of the XENOM events yet, or what's the general sentiment been from the athlete side on what XENOM's doing?
Yeah, it's tough for us right now is we're in CrossFit semifinal season. So that's kind of really, been I think the main focus for a lot of the elite athletes. But I've had a few that have tested. I have had a couple specifically like masters athletes and games masters athletes who've tested events and that are actually prepping for the Dallas event. So that's pretty awesome. So I've been able to develop a little bit of programming and progressions for that. So that's been cool. But I think, if you look at the community on a whole, the fact that you've seen several elite athletes already sign up for Dallas, I think that shows that there's some excitement there. And I think in general, for me, just being an advocate for athletes, being an advocate for competition, the fact that we have this now, again, in our ecosystem, I think it's very exciting. I think it's only going to grow, especially when we see what's going to happen in Dallas. I'm sure it's going to be great, and you're going to have people talking about it, and more people are going to want to do it. And I also love the fact that with it being a standardized test, with the fact that we have this scoring system, it's highly measurable. It's a great way for athletes of all levels. They do one, you prep more for the next one, and you're very clearly going to see how much fitter you've become. And it's such a broad expression of fitness that it's going to turn out to be a phenomenal test for people, and a phenomenal test to do multiple times to be able to see how good you can get. And I think that's what's really exciting.
Yeah. And let me, why don't I share the calculator, and maybe Keith, you can talk a little bit about how people are going to get this single score and how the calculator for scoring works?
Sure. So, so obviously we're the Decathlon of Fitness, and we very obviously borrowed some homework from the Decathlon here. So, and the reason, if you think about what the Decathlon is, and if you think about what like the traditional conversation about fitness would be, like if you were having a, say, 30 years ago, pre-CrossFit, if you were having a conversation with someone about who the fittest person in the world is, inevitably one of the first things someone would say is whoever is the world champion decathlete would be it, because they have this ability across all these different formats. And so decathlon's a really, really interesting sport when you look at the way that they score things. So the Elite Performance Index, this scoring system is very, very similar to how Decathlon do it. So it's an algorithm based tool. Every workout we do is either assigned to reps or to time. And the way this works is we award points to athletes in either like a broadly linear way or in a progressive way. And that's dictated. The algorithm is all the scoring system and all the methodology behind it is on the website. You can go and pull it apart. But we basically assign different C scores to different parts of the workout. So that means that in, for example, a snatch, the scoring system is relatively linear. For every extra kilo you lift, you get a certain number of additional points. If you look then at some of the gymnastics workouts, if you look at some of the conditioning workouts, as you reach the latter stages, it becomes a progressive scoring system. So you get rewarded more at the higher end for your more complex gymnastics, for your harder to
Yep.
access total power output. Um,
Yep.
that was very specific. So when we produced this, we didn't take the route of let's design an elegant competition. We didn't obsess over like, is this a pretty triplet or something? We commissioned out a piece of statistical work to go and create a set of movements and a set of time domains that we believed accurately represented broad work capacity across time and modal domains. And if you go and look at like your CrossFit L1 or something, and you look at the theoretical development of an athlete, and you look at the pyramid, which has nutrition at the bottom, you can't really test for nutrition in a competition. Then it goes metabolic conditioning, it goes gymnastics, it goes weightlifting, it goes sport on top. We wanted to create a format that would reward athletes in a method that was congruent to that understanding of fitness. And if you go and you kind of read kind of old school CrossFit or journal, and you really think about, we went like 95% of the way in terms of we defined what fitness was. We said it was broad work capacity across time modal domains. We said it's expressed as power, and we said it's generally expressed as foot pounds per minute. We never like took that final step of quantifying it in a way that was really easy to understand. So you can either get really into the methodology of our scoring system, or you can see it's the other side of the equation, which is a score that represents fitness. And when you do that, you make it super interesting, because you suddenly you have, whether you agree with it or not, you have a methodological basis for defining fitness. And so for the coaches, suddenly the challenge is there. Like, how good are you as a coach to be able to improve that score? Like,
Yeah.
if you go and spend, if you go and take your athlete who's generally quite fit and he's done Dallas and he's got 3,700 points, and he's like, ah, but I bombed the snatch. I didn't do very well in the snatch. And you're like, okay, but you're a really, really fit guy. And then he goes away and he spends 6 months just working on his snatch, and he adds 10 kilos to his snatch, and he gets an extra 30 points or whatever he gets in the snatch. But actually, his conditioning gets way, way worse. And net, he's less fit. Like, was that a success? Like, and it will present some really interesting conundrums of like, what do you shave off? What do you add on to create athletes that succeed in this version of the sport? Yeah, it will, and we don't necessarily know all the answers. Like, you could throw it's this challenge of, in theory, you know the answer. You know that You know that from a statistical perspective, it would be possible with enough computational power to throw a deck of cards in the air, and knowing all of the factors ahead of throwing those cards in the air, you could predict how they're going to land and in what order. But you would need more computational power to do it than exists in the world and ever will do to make that prediction. It's kind of the same for an athlete. Like if you know all of their factors around them before they take part, and then you know what inputs you're going to put into them, you in
Yeah.
theory would know how to change that athlete's outputs. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting challenge for people.
Well, and just going back to what you said at the beginning, it gives purpose to training. And you might not have all the answers, but it gives purpose and structure and things to work on. And it gives for owners and coaches listening who in these types of gyms we're talking about are experts for their clients. It gives them an opportunity to go deep on the science and the methodology and help be a translator to their clients who might not be able to take their score and understand what they should improve or how they could improve it. So it like gives purpose to the training and gives a shared language in the gym for coaches and athletes.
Look, when it comes to affiliate owners as well, and very conscious of the audience that we're talking to, there are two things that we can do that will fundamentally help a business. One is attract new clients, one is retain the clients that you already have. If we can do those two things, and we can do that by, in terms of attracting clients, by creating a sport that is so in demand, that is such a high status, aspirational thing for people to do, and that the best version of training for that exists in your gym, then we help people attract clients, and then retaining clients is, yeah, it's giving purpose to that training. And we can, I saw it over the last 5 years with what we did with High Rocks, and it's a very similar it's
Yeah.
a similar concept here. It's tried and tested.
Um, So I want to shift gears to the Q&A, but I'll ask you each one more question because everything we just talked about is these reasons to be excited, and we're about to have the first event. So Justin and Keith, for each of you, what are you most excited about to see at these first 2 days of competition?
Um, I'm excited to see what we're going to build with Rogue. So Rogue is the equipment partner. We really are going to build like the playground, like the Disneyland of fitness for people in our space. I think people, when they walk in and they see the rig that we're building, which is a brand new rig, when they see the equipment out there, when they see the level of investment that's gone into building something for people, I think they'll be blown away. So I'm super excited to see it there.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, I feel like as soon as the first event hits, just what people around the world are going to be able to see on social media is going to bring it to life so much more. And then obviously, if you're there, even better.
Yeah.
Justin, how about you?
Yeah, personally as a coach, I'm kind of excited to geek out on the scoring, just to see, um, you know, how people do on these events, and then what that correlates to as far as scoring, what's possible. And then I think once we see that as coaches too, it enables us to be able to kind of say like, oh, okay, this is,
Yeah.
you got this, and now that correlates to this score, and you'll have a much better understanding of what's possible or what you can shoot for as far as goals are concerned, as far as scoring. And I think that's exciting for people. I think when you have when you have something tangible, especially in the scoring system. So yeah, I think I'm excited to kind of dig into that side of things.
Yeah, I think I feel like that's definitely going to be the case. And it's obviously we're huge fans of High Rocks and Keith's worked with High Rocks, so nothing against them, but sometimes I feel like there's some almost like disappointed people who are like, well, I guess I'll just get faster at running. There's just not that many levers you can pull. Like, maybe I'll improve my burpee form by like this much. And there's so many interesting skills and strength and cardio and gymnastics to work on here that it'll be really fun for people too. It's like a very complicated puzzle of fitness. Awesome, guys. Well, thank you so much. I think that gave a lot of people on the call just more depth and understanding into what you're doing with XENOM. We've got some good questions trickling in now, but feel free for anyone else listening, if you haven't already typed in your question, throw it in. We'll get through as many as we can here. So Rick, starting with you, you asked of 4 million people that Keith was mentioning, how deep do you expect to go? Going back to that question of like who in my gym do you expect to go? If they're barely mid in some movements, do they expect to pay the fees and travel? Our booking so far, objectively, so far my gym seems underwhelmed at this point based on the complexity of some of the movements. So yeah, Keith, do you want to just try to address a little bit more kind of who it's for and maybe these early
Yeah,
adopters?
absolutely. So I'll go the 3 points. So who in the gym do you expect to go? And if they're barely mid in some movements, do they expect to pay the fees and travel? What I would say there is if people are if people are mid, like if people are at a beginner or at an intermediate level of taking part in the sport, or just at a beginner level, I think that we all have to collectively believe in the methodology and believe that every time someone comes into the gym, they're going to leave moving better than they came in, that they're going to develop capacity, that they're going to improve. If we think that the only thing that people can do is what they can do right now, and that there's no level of aspiration to an ability to unlock new movements and grow and develop as an athlete, then I would say like is that's a bigger problem to me. Like that's not a problem for a competition. That's a problem for that's a problem for everyone if that's the way that we're thinking about things. Bookings we're super happy with. So we're at like 470, 480 now for Dallas. We'll round out with that 550, which is our hard cap, which is ahead of what we were thinking when we launched. It's a brand new product. It's obviously expensive compared to what some other products are out in the market. What I will say is it's a 2-day event and it's subjectively not that expensive when you look at how expensive they are to run.
Once they get in the rogue, once they see the rogue playground, I feel like they're gonna be,
Yeah,
yeah,
100%. And then if your gym feels underwhelmed, hey, I'd love to know where your gym is, and I'd love to know how I can change that. We have a gym tour operating in Dallas and in London at the moment, and I'd love to be able to come out and try and convert some people there. On the complexity of the gymnastics and weightlifting, I mean, I'm I would love to hear the feedback, but yeah, the compete level, I would say that we've tried to design something and ensure that it has complexity and loading that is appropriate to someone at that level. But like I said, that is aspirational. That's not saying, oh, because otherwise, look, the danger is we learn the wrong lessons from what happened in High Rocks, and we say accessibility is the only thing that matters. We're not doing toaster bars anymore, guys. We're only doing ab mat sit-ups because everyone can do ab mat sit-ups. We're not doing muscle ups anymore. We're doing banded pull-ups, and that's for everyone. Like, and if we go down that route, I don't know. I think you have to appeal to your community.
yeah, and take a stance you believe in.
Yeah.
And there's the other, I mean, I think the other story you shared with me that resonated was you think of things like the CrossFit Open and how many people train for it and got their first pull up. It was like they did that because they had this thing to train for. So whether it's you know, a movement they never thought they'd be able to do, like that's what makes it special. That's the moment they're never going to forget.
Yeah,
Um,
100%. Like you're going to have people in Dallas who are going to turn up and they're going to come to the clean ladder, which is a progressively loading clean ladder, and they're going to get to a point in the ladder that they can't go any further. But the bar before that is going to be a PR and they're going to hit it,
yeah,
and it's going to be the best thing that has happened to them. They are going to be so jazzed and they're going to do it in this amazing place with their friends around them, being treated like a professional athlete. And like, that's not a problem that they got pinned by a bar that they couldn't get the next bar up. Like, it's a huge achievement that they got there. And everyone has seen it when someone gets that first muscle up, when they get that first achievement. That's the game. Like that's what we're all there
yeah,
for.
yeah, great. Um, Matt asked, will there be masters divisions?
So we don't have masters in the sense of we don't have a separate competition, but like a triathlon or like a high rocks, everyone who's competing is competing in their age category. So in 5-year age categories for individuals and 10 years for doubles, for pairs. So I'm 34, I'd be competing in the 30 to 34 age category. I'm doing RX male individual, so I'm competing against everyone in the male RX individual category, but I'm also competing specifically on a leaderboard with everyone in my age group as well.
Yep. how do you feel this will live inside the ecosystem of things like Wadapalooza?
Um, I don't think that we live inside the ecosystem of things like Wadapalooza in the sense that obviously we are we are a sport in of itself. We obviously have movements and aspects to us that live within this ecosystem, but that also is separate. We can see already a huge appetite for this international, global shared experience. And we think that that is the route that we will go down. I and I want to clarify, I think that CrossFit competitions like Wadapalooza, I know Dylan well, I really like him. I think that the CrossFit Games is still an incredible way of going and finding the fittest person on earth. I will be there and I will absolutely love it like I always have. I think that there are incredible competitions in the UK. I've done lots of them as well. We're offering something completely separate and completely different.
Um, any thought on establishing something like the Hyrox PFT, physical fitness test, and something that can be easily executed within and by affiliates? Before you answer, I'll give the quick Wodify plug. We loaded up all of XENOM's events into Wodify's global components. So if any gym owner does want to run just one of the events during a class, you can use those. But yeah, Keith, is there anything else that would be almost like a proxy test for the entire?
So we're on our gym tour at the moment. So we've done 20 odd tours in Dallas so far. We just launched London. We've got our first one on Friday at E3 in London, which we're super looking forward to. In those events, we come in, we run a couple of the events from Xenon, give people an experience, give them a chance to get an EPI score. So yeah, we're absolutely doing it. The Hyrox PFT has been yeah, an amazing tool for doing that and for introducing people to a flavor or a test of it. We have had a lot of inbound inquiries from people wanting to run Xenon Sims and stuff already. We're very dialed in, focused on what we're doing right now with the main competition. But we're constantly evaluating kind of what those options are, and if there is something that we think will add value to an affiliate and the ability to maybe do a sim or something, then that's something where we can look at and say, okay, we probably can do that better than someone else. So that
Yeah.
might be something to go down in.
I mean, I think it's good to have that focus. It's really easy to look at, we keep talking about Hyrox, but like look at something like Hyrox and see the PFTs, the crews they're doing, the sponsor deals, and they're only able to do that because they did events really, really well consistently for a while. So you can't get distracted trying to do too many things early. And I know you're going to have these first couple events that you want to execute at a really high level. So um, thanks for that one. James asked, what happens after the final event? Is there a podium and can athletes take a picture with their score?
There is a podium and there will be a photo opportunity with your score, 100%. One of our partners, so we just launched Pliability as our mobility and recovery partner. They're working on a super cool activation for Dallas that I think people will enjoy.
Nice. Yeah, that's part of that spotlight feel, making people feel a sense of accomplishment and helping spread it on social media. So we're excited to see what that looks like. Two more we'll get through, but we got about 5 minutes if anyone has any others. Jorge said, it bums me out a little bit that some of the movements are for athletes that have been at least 2 or 3 years in CrossFit. Why not develop events that are at least 80% of athletes do? I think you touched on this a little bit in the first answer, but anything else you want to add to this question?
No, I mean, I'd love to be able to sit and go through our compete programming with Jorge and ask what he felt precluded someone from taking part. I think that if you look at the structure of most of our events, the things that are most complex, the things that are most difficult to attain, are at the end of a workout. And generally, you have to have earned the right to get there, and you have to work pretty hard to get there to be able to attempt that more complex movement. And you don't, within our scoring system, like you don't have to finish, like you don't have to finish every workout. Yes, you might get to a place where you're precluded from moving on, but that's the challenge. That's
Yeah.
competition.
Yep. Great. And it kind of goes back to the training in the gym. Like, because you know what the events are, you don't get the show up and like not know if you can do it or not. Like, you actually get a chance to test these things before you get embarrassed in front of a ton of people. Also from James said, will events change annually?
No.
That was the most concise answer. No, James, they will not change annually. And then not as many questions, but Jorge just offered to continue the conversation, shared his email address. So thank you for that, Jorge. And I think we got through everything. Keith, Justin, thank you guys again so much. Any last comments or anything you want to share as closing thoughts for the audience?
No, I mean, just thank you so much for letting us come on and spend this time chatting with you. To anyone who's listening who has follow-up questions or who would like to hear more about what we're doing, I'm available anytime. I'd love to chat, Jorge. I will shoot you an email. I'd love to hear your perspectives. And yeah, we're super excited to build in this space. We're super excited to build within this community. It's one that has been an incredible place for me over many, many years. And yeah, looking forward to keeping going.
Awesome.
Yeah, just want people to know that HWPO will be showing up in Dallas with several coaches on site to support athletes. And people want more information, obviously, follow us at HWPO Training on Instagram, and I'm sure XENOM will be posting some of that as well, details as they roll out. But yeah, just again, excited to be a part of this. Thank you so much for having me, and I'm glad I could add a little bit of perspective. But yeah, just we're really excited about this partnership.
Yeah, thank you guys. We're excited for it. Keith, we'll all be either in person or eagerly watching on social media to see the first Dallas event.